Just hopping on live here. As I mentioned earlier today, I was not dignifying this constitutionally violating, lawless president. I did not want to dignify his campaign stump of a speech with my presence and frankly, just the presence of members of Congress. I think it's really important for us to underscore and state and recall that this moment is not normal. This president is not normal. He is impeached. He is actively soliciting foreign interference into our election. He is violating constitutional norms. He is breaking the law. He is violating the emoluments clause of the Constitution. He is undermining the very institutions of the nation that we are a part of, and he does not deserve to be normalized with the power of state ceremony. And for that reason, I decided to not go to the State of the Union. I did have a State of the Union guest, and what we did was that we held a dinner for them in my office, and tomorrow I will be giving them a tour of the Capitol. The family that I brought to the State of the Union this year is a family from our district, from New York 14, and their father was placed in ICE detention this year, and his daughters came to my office to try to get him out, and we were successfully able to work with coalition partners and community partners to get him released. And frankly, I didn't want to put my own constituent, and I didn't want to put my own immigrant families in my community in harm's way by being in the gallery. And I think that, especially when you look at what the president was saying with respect to ICE and all of these other things, I think it was the right call. And so I'm extremely excited for our constituents to be brought around the Capitol tomorrow in a dignified way where their humanity is not being debased or questioned. Reaction to Rush Limbaugh receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom. First of all, the Presidential Medal of Freedom is an extraordinarily sacred award. We're talking about putting someone on the same level as Rosa Parks, for example, in terms of their contributions to American progress. Rush Limbaugh is a virulent racist, but even just on top of that, to do it in the middle of a State of the Union and not even dignify it with its own ceremony as it has, there's all sorts of norms that are being violated, not just for people's humanity, but also it truly just cheapens the value of it. Also, him pretending to be surprised was such a joke. This has been news all day. There have been multiple reports from multiple news outlets saying that Rush Limbaugh was going to receive the Medal of Freedom, and then Trump announced it, and he had to pretend that this was some kind of Oprah moment. Was so disingenuous. And to do that and to give it to Rush Limbaugh when there were plenty of people in that audience that have contributed positively to the fabric of American society, much more, frankly, than he has. But it's red meat to his base. Trump knows what he's doing, and he wants to assert that Rush Limbaugh is somehow on the same level as Rosa Parks. And it's truly nauseating, and this is one of the many reasons why I did not go, especially when he talks about socialism. For a president who seems to care so much about socialism, he really doesn't seem to give a damn about introducing fascism into the United States, and that's a real aspect. Hey, Deco, that's right, isn't it? reaction to so many people of color being highlighted, I think, again, Trump knows exactly what he's doing. Donald Trump has started giving out cash to Black Americans at his rallies. This whole State of the Union was like a game show where he was handing out prizes and surprises and reality TV moments. And this is exactly his political agenda. And, you know, it's not just for political reasons, but one of the reasons why I find it so frustrating that the rights of people of color are constantly negotiated and on the chopping block in politics in general, is, you know, this is one of the concerns, because when suddenly the rights of immigrants are controversial, or issues pertaining to Black Americans are controversial, but issues facing white Americans are not controversial and they're bread and butter issues, this is what starts to happen in our political discourse. And I think that we need to be very careful about this, because it's extraordinarily deliberate and it's being done with a very specific agenda. That you know, this also is in line with the fact that Trump decided to make a kind of bogus criminal justice reform advertisement and the Super Bowl. He's being very deliberate in trying to look, isn't that right, Deco? In trying to look like he's being great for the Black community, for communities of color, etc. A lot of folks are asking about thoughts on Pelosi tearing papers up at the end of the speech. I thought it was a pretty audacious move. I do wish that the president was not invited to deliver a State of the Union on this day. I think that there's a lot of complications around inviting an impeached president whose trial is not over yet to deliver a State of the Union and to have a profound amount of state ceremony and coverage focused on what he has to say. And there are a lot of members who are, you know, who went that are now saying they either walked out in the middle of the speech or they said that they wished that they didn't go. And that is because the president peddled in misinformation for, 60 minutes straight, or however long his speech lasted. And that is the consequence. And again, this is different than saying things you disagree with. We're talking about saying things that are patently false to be aired. And one of the biggest problems that we have in journalism right now is that journalists covering this White House are covering it like they're acting like stenographers and they're not acting like journalists. And so what they're doing is that they're just amplifying and quoting all of the false statements that the president says. And they don't know, and they took years struggling to call a lie, and to call racism. They still can't bring themselves to often call things racist. And, you know, that is what it is. But when you invite someone to deliver a State of the Union that is, you know, filled with patently false statements, that gets amplified and it gets almost aired without comment, despite the fact that there's a lot of false information there. So, you know, I'm glad that she expressed her discontent, but I think we still need to talk about the larger problematic issue of him essentially giving a campaign speech as his State of the Union. It's not a State of the Union. It's just a rally. And you could hear that by Republican members yelling 4 more years. We're not supposed to engage in electioneering or that kind of behavior on the House floor. They can save that for their rallies where they yell, "Send her back," or whatever.